You're listening to In the Family Way with your hosts, Eleanor Prado and Alexandra Tran. This podcast is about all things pregnancy, labor, and postpartum. On it, you'll hear short, uncensored information regarding starting a family. You may want to throw on some headphones, because when we say uncensored, we mean uncensored. If you're overwhelmed by all the confusing and conflicting info out there on the internet and in books surrounding pregnancy, labor, and parenthood, stay tuned and subscribe.
Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Alex.
And I'm Eleanor.
And this week we're going to talk about how to know when it's time to go.
How do you know when it's time to leave when you're in labor?
Time to go to the hospital, the birth center, wherever it is you plan on expelling your baby.
Expelling.
Just welcoming your baby earthside.
I mean, it really is expelling.
Yeah. I always say happy uterine expulsion day to my friends.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, I'm
I like
welcome. That. Because no matter if you came out vaginally or if you were a C-section child, I mean, it doesn't
still
matter.
Expelling.
You're still a human. You still got to pay taxes. Like, there's no discount for any specific type of birth.
Yeah. You were both, like, you were still a parasite technically.
Yeah, leeching off of your mom. So, but we're happy you're here and we're happy you're listening. So thank you for being with us today. So I think this is a very interesting question. A lot of especially my first time parents will be like, well, how do I know when it's time? And it's hard to tell them, well, you just know, because you really don't. You've never done this before.
Yeah.
You know, like, how do you know? And it's just it's pretty straightforward. It's when you have so many, you check off so many of the boxes.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're all very familiar with the movie depiction of birth where the water breaks or, you know, the woman is walking down the street and has one contraction and is like, oh,
and you have to run
then,
to the hospital.
You have to run, or that baby is going to fall out in the middle of the street, in the middle of the car. I mean, it's time to go. Or, you know, and one of the things that I think we'll talk about a little bit later is the idea that, you know, the mom in the movie that's having the birth is very verbal and is talking and, oh, get this and pack the bag and do this and make sure you do this and, oh, let's call the babysitter and, oh, let's do that, which is like a clear indication that
she's not ready.
Time
it's
to
not
go.
time.
Which we'll get into a little bit more. But yeah, you know, most babies don't just fall out. Most labors, like you said, there's a list of things and you got to tick off the boxes. And once you're kind of ticking off all of those boxes, you realize, okay, now it's time to go.
Yeah. Now it's getting real. We're getting closer to the time where we can actually start pushing. So
yeah. And we need our, you know, care provider and an extra monitoring and care.
And let's think, what are some of the benefits to staying home longer or, you know, not rushing to the hospital?
So I think with hospital births, one of the benefits is that a lot of the times if you go to the hospital and you're enough to be admitted, there tends to be a timer for birth.
Right.
There's a certain amount of time that they feel comfortable allowing you to labor before there needs to be other interventions that happen.
And when we mean like you're enough, meaning that you're dilated, that there's action happening below the belt where it shows that the baby's actually coming. So
yeah, some hospitals will, if you're having the contractions, they don't care how far along you're dilated. You could be 1 centimeter dilated, but if you're having contraction pattern, they will take you in. And so that's something to be aware of as well, because it's not necessarily just about dilation. It's not necessarily just about contraction pattern, right? Like it's a combination of a lot of different things that means it's time to go.
Right. And the longer that you're laboring and there's not exactly, because unfortunately labor is not linear. It doesn't happen, okay, now I'm at 3 centimeters, so by 6 o'clock I'll be this far. We really have no idea how long it will take you to dilate completely and you're ready to push. So it could be 6 hours or it could be 12. I mean, we don't know what your body's going to do until you're in that position.
Definitely. And I think another big risk of showing up too early to the birth center or the hospital is just being sent home. And that's frustrating and it's disheartening. I heard of a lot of parents who have shown up and shown up and shown up and
been sent home.
And that gets really disheartening. And so this idea and this birth plan of having this natural, unmedicated birth that they have in their mind immediately goes to C-section because they're tired of it. And then there is the idea or the thought kind of comes into the mind of my body's not working correctly.
Right.
And
you can really psych yourself out.
Definitely. It's definitely a psychological game. And so I think staying home for as long as possible can prevent that from happening.
Yeah. And then you can use your own stuff and you feel safe and you feel secure, and there's a lot of benefits for staying home. So let's see, what are some of the signs that it's time to get moving?
Okay, so we mentioned contraction pattern, right? What kind of pattern are we looking for?
And when we say contraction patterns, what do we mean? We mean like how long they are or how close they are together?
Both,
okay.
Right? So we're looking for active labor contractions are about a minute long. I tend to say anywhere between 55 seconds and a minute and 5 seconds.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a variable, but a minute. If your contractions are 52 seconds, 51 seconds,
we're going to count it. We're going to count it.
Yeah. But if we're like 45 seconds, we're not there yet, right? So minute long contractions are very, very important. And they are typically 5 minutes apart or less. So that means you're getting a 4-minute break in between, because the way that you count frequency with contractions, so how often are they coming, is from start to start.
That's
so
right.
the break that you're getting in between them is 4 minutes or less. So they're 5 minutes apart. And typically most people don't call it active labor until that pattern of 1 minute long contractions 5 minutes apart has been going on for an hour. So you might have heard maybe in a birthing class or someone casually mentioned it to you, 5-1-1 or even 4-1-1. That's what those numbers mean for contraction pattern.
So I find that there's a lot of these contraction timers apps.
Yes.
They're on the App Store.
Oh, yeah.
Those are very, very helpful.
Super easy.
So you don't have to actually write it down. But if you don't want to download an app, you can definitely use your stopwatch feature on your phone or an actual old-fashioned stopwatch. But make sure you write it down, because they will ask you when you go to the birth center or to the hospital.
Yeah. And the next thing is mood. I think mood is a huge thing.
This is the biggest one that I look at.
The biggest one that I look as a doula, right? Because we're not checking dilation.
Right.
So for us as doulas, we're looking at mood. What is the birthing person feeling? How are they acting? How are they interacting with things? So
are they able to answer questions?
Yes.
Are they more impatient? Are they, like, if I am asking somebody a question and she cannot answer me, but she can bat my hand away, then I kind of get an idea.
Yeah. So typically in early labor, in between contractions, you're going to be able to do all the things that you're doing now when you're not in labor. You're going to be able to cook. You're going to be able to clean. You're going to be able to watch a TV show.
Right.
The contractions might distract you a little bit, but then after that contraction's over, you're going to be able to get back into whatever it was that you were doing.
Exactly.
With active labor, that becomes a little bit stronger. And so that TV show that you were watching might become kind of annoying and disruptive. People asking you questions, it's going to take you a little bit harder to communicate. It's going to take a little bit more effort. A very common thing that I hear people say when they're in labor is, I don't know, I don't care. Yeah, what?
Yeah. At that moment, they're really going within themselves to focus and focus through these contractions or cope any method that they're currently using. So they don't have the bandwidth to be able to answer questions or do outside activities.
Yeah, and the body kind of shuts things down, right? The body's trying to conserve energy, and so it's directing all of this energy downward into the uterus to do the work. And so the body's saying to you, like, you don't need to be watching TV anymore. Stop cleaning, stop cooking. Like, you need to do the work of this. This is important. And so a lot of people who are in labor that I've seen labor with their eyes closed, it's harder for them to have their eyes open and alert and walking around and looking around. Another thing that I see as far as mood goes is definitely not being able to talk through or during a contraction. Those contractions are going to be taking up a lot of your energy. And I think the last thing for mood is a very common thing that I hear people in labor say is that they're tired. I'm so tired. I don't know how I can do this for hours. I'm so tired. I just want to take a nap.
Right.
That's very, very normal to feel very tired in labor. So if you're still feeling like you have a lot of energy and you can move around and walk, like, you're not doing the work of labor.
Yet.
We're not there yet. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's coming. And I feel like that's the body's way of actually fueling you, so that's a good thing. You feel energy. You feel like that means that you're banking up for what's to come.
Correct. Yes.
And the next one is definitely pressure location. So
Where are you feeling the contractions?
Exactly. So is it going to be more in your back? Is it going to be more in the front? Now your uterus, when you're getting these contractions, it's your uterus working. It's working baby down into the position where it needs to be. So what we're really looking for is a lot of pressure. And like Eleanor was telling me earlier, the midwives that she works for are very straightforward. They want pressure consistently in the butt.
Yeah, I like to call them poop contractions. So basically, the further dilated that you get, the lower your baby's head is going to be. And so most people tend to start feeling contractions towards the front of their body at the beginning of labor. And then it kind of works its way in between your legs. And then it works its way down into your butt. And when I say down into your butt, I'm talking low in your butt, like your butthole. There's
like you feel a lot of pressure. Like you feel like you have to go.
You feel like you have to poop. Yeah. A lot of people, I'll hear them say, oh my God, I have to poop during the middle of a contraction. And I'm like, oh, yay. And then in between contractions, I'll ask, like, hey, do you need to get up and use the bathroom? And they're like, no, it went away. And then the next contraction comes and they go, oh my God, I have to poop again. And that is a really, really good sign that you are progressing and that things are moving along. And like you said, the midwives that I work for, before we go to the birth center, they're like, they need to be feeling those contractions in their butt.
Consistently.
Because and not little bit, strong urge to poop.
Right.
Yeah.
And when we say consistently, it's really not because anybody wants you to suffer. It's not like we want you to be in pain for an extended amount of time. But we also want to not have you rush in and then have to turn around and go back or stall out or, basically get to a point where you're disappointed. So it's really to make sure that you're able to, progress at home for as long as possible and feel comfortable with your own things and your own surroundings and be with your loved one and just keep it private.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit of early labor, right? With my second baby, I was technically in early labor for 4 days before I went into active labor. And all day long, I'd be contracting here and there, and they'd be consistent. I knew I was in labor because they didn't stop, right? No matter what position I was in, no matter if I was hydrated or fed or whatever, I was still having contractions, but they weren't the 5-1-1 pattern. So what can someone like me do who is kind of stuck in that early labor pattern?
Yeah. So I love telling my families to watch Netflix. I'm dead serious. I'm like, pick a series that you love that you haven't watched yet. Not anything that's going to make you sad, okay? Because we don't want like depressing labor. But something that you can laugh to, because I can always tell whenever the laughter dies down, that's when things are getting a little bit more serious. But that's okay. If you're really not into like watching anything funny, you don't have to. I had one mom who was really into crocheting. She wanted to see how far she can get on this scarf before it was time to go. We made it like 2/3 of the way.
Nice.
Before she was ready. I think she'd already started it too. So just different things, like they went on walks, they did things with the family calls. They got all the calls out of the way with the family before, so nobody was going to be bothering them. They're like, this is what's happening, and then we're signing off, and then the partner will update you whenever it's time. So what about you?
Yeah, I like to encourage my clients to have an early labor project. So, like you said, a Netflix series, like save a movie to watch that you haven't seen that you're really excited about watching. Maybe like bake a birthday cake for the baby. That's always a fun one because like then it gets you busy and it gets you active and there's something that needs to get done. Decorating a cake,
that's
whatever.
Really smart. I've never thought to tell people to do something like that. Normally I'm like, go for a walk, or have some sex.
Sex is great. Honestly, if your water has not broken yet, sex is beautiful because semen is a natural prostaglandin. So semen actually can help ripen your cervix and kick labor into gear. It may not be comfortable at this stage, but
it might. Give it a go.
Yeah, give it a go.
You can always change your mind. It's okay.
Try it out. And that's, of course, for like people who are in heterosexual relationships, right? When they're looking for semen.
But of course, if your water's already broken, nothing up the vagina. That's pretty much the hard and
pretty much
rule.
The standard. Yeah. But yeah, have an early labor project. Come up with something to do. Maybe go on one last date night with your partner. We're in the time of COVID. So, maybe set up like a blanket in the living room and have a picnic or something like that.
Yeah.
But do something to maybe make it special.
Yeah. Your partner can lightly massage you. If you get one of those surges that comes in the middle of it. I always like to do something where you're not in the middle of like a crowd. So like if you needed to leave, you could do that. So like I like to keep around the house or around the neighborhood. If you need to go home, you can waddle back.
Definitely. And I think the best piece of advice that I ever received as a pregnant mom was pretend like you're not in labor until you can't pretend anymore.
Yes, I use that.
So
very,
track
very
your
often.
contractions, but every contraction that comes, just say, it's a false alarm, or, oh, this is not it, but I'm just going to track it just in case. And just continue doing that until you can't any longer.
Exactly.
Because I think the biggest thing that we've been kind of emphasizing this whole episode is like the mental fatigue. And if you get to the point where, especially if early labor, before you're hitting those like really active contractions, if that goes on for a while, that can be very discouraging. And so just trying to maintain that positive attitude that eventually you won't be pregnant anymore.
Exactly. I mean, because really this isn't, I hate to be like cliche, but it's not a sprint. It's really a marathon.
Oh, it really
and
is.
we need to make sure that you're fed and hydrated and keeping up your energy through the whole thing.
You don't want to do the work of labor until you have to.
Exactly.
Because you're just going to exhaust yourself.
Also napping. I'm like, nap as much as you can, which can be challenging, especially if you're having contractions. I know it may be a little bit disjointed as far as the nap is concerned, but building up, kind of like refilling your cup as much as you possibly can. You know?
Yeah, napping as much as you can.
Nap banking. That's what we're going to call it from here on out. So, all right. So what about talking to a friend about their labor? This can go either way because you might get psyched out talking to your friend, but if you feel like you won't, you can definitely talk to them about their labor experience.
Yeah, I think talking to other people about their labor experiences is important because not necessarily for their birth stories or anything like that, but for kind of getting a realistic length of time.
Exactly.
How long did it take for them to really get things going, or how long did it, like from the beginning of labor to the end of labor before they had their baby? And I think it gives you a little bit more of a realistic length of time so that when you first start having those contractions, you're not the person in the movie going, oh my God, this baby's going to fall out on the side of the road.
Yeah.
You realize, okay, the last 10 people that I talked to, it took them 6 hours, 10 hours, 15 hours, 16 hours, 12 hours, whatever it took.
Yeah, whatever it
to
was.
To kind of calm you down in that situation.
Give you some good perspective on what is realistic.
That most of the time, babies don't come out in 2 hours.
Because unfortunately, even with, people who have the best relationships with their providers, sometimes they go into birth not knowing how long it realistically takes.
Yeah.
So it's good I like to connect with, I love to hear other birth stories. So I love to connect with new moms. I'm like, tell me your birth story. I love hearing it because, for example, my first birth was a unnecessary induction, but it was only 7 hours. I feel
that's pretty short.
Yeah, I feel really lucky that it was like that, even though I look back and I wish I wasn't induced, period. But, that could have gone very, very differently. And I went on weeks with having Braxton Hicks contractions, nothing really serious.
Yeah.
So, who really knows? But at the same time, but somebody next to me could be completely different. So I love hearing those different perspectives and what happened to them, and it's good. But however, if you're somebody who's very anxious about these things, it's okay if you don't feel like you need to take a census of everybody in the neighborhood.
Yeah. If that's going to give you more anxiety over things, then definitely keep to yourself on that one.
That's fine too.
And I think the last thing is really trying to make your home feel like a safe place to labor is really important. I have been with clients before that didn't feel safe at home, that in their head it was, oh my God, this baby comes, I can't labor here. I need to labor at the hospital. I need to labor at the birth center. I can't be here. I can't be here. I can't be here because this is not safe, because in their head, that's where you have babies. So I think trying to cultivate an atmosphere at home where you feel safe to labor. One of the biggest things that you can do to do that is hiring a doula. This is our shameless doula plug.
Yeah. We're not going to have an episode without it. But realistically, what is a doula? We covered that in one of our previous episodes, but it's basically your birth professional friend, somebody who's there, who's done it a million times and who knows the process of birth and can provide that level of comfort for you.
Yeah. And even if you're someone who's going into the hospital that's saying like, I want the epidural and I want that and I don't want to feel the pain, a doula can really provide that pain management at home to make things really comfortable for you during the earlier stages of labor, so that when you get to the hospital, you are at a really good place to get an epidural.
Right.
And you're at a really good place to receive those meds that you are wanting to receive in labor.
And a lot of people will ask like, well, if I'm going to get an epidural, do I still need a doula? I'm like, oh yeah, I still put you in positions. Just
I
because
move you every 30 to 45 minutes.
I'm moving you. I mean, I know you might be a little numb and wiggly from the waist down, but I'm moving you over and making sure that, your pelvis is, the outlet is in a wide open position
most definitely.
for a baby to come down. So, I mean, definitely. But as far as being at home, yes, I feel like somebody who's there, who's just a birth professional who can really be like, this is normal. You're doing great. Let's relax. Let's keep the lights down low, etc. Can help you with the emotional management of labor.
Yeah. So we like to end every episode with the question, how have you cared for yourself this past week? So it's your turn to go first.
Okay. So I got these. I'm an internet shopping sucker. Okay. I'm just going to say that right now. And the stupid Facebook ads, they get me. But I actually had a friend who got some of these like UV gel nails and I thought they were expensive because I'm pretty like frugal, but I went ahead and went forward on buying them and I did them and I'm really excited. They turned out really
really
cute.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know how long they're going to last.
So they're not press on.
So what it is they're like these little pre-polished strips, right? And they're like this. Each one is like the size of a nail. You have to match up and see which one fits the best. You put it on like a sticker. If it's a little bit short, it's okay. Just pull and stretch it over to completely fill your nail, and you have to press down around so it like sticks.
This is not an ad, guys.
It's not. But if you want to, I mean, please pay me, okay? Because I would love to.
Yeah,
But sponsor us, please. We're so broke. And then we cure it with a UV light, and it's pretty easy. Like, cool. I mean, some people say it will last like 2 to 3 weeks, but I don't know. With all the hand washing I do, I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. But I'm pretty excited because it makes me feel pretty. I haven't felt pretty in so long.
That's nice. Yeah.
What about you, friend?
Well, I feel really pretty right now too.
Ooh.
I'm not wearing my shirt right now, but I did buy myself a new shirt recently.
Guys, you will see this shirt in our pictures that we are going to release soon, and it is so pretty.
Oh yeah. It's a good shirt. It's a Target shirt. I mean, that's pretty much my go-to place to shop.
Well, the Red Dot Boutique is like my place.
Nice. I don't even know what that is.
That's Target.
Oh,
the Red Dot Boutique.
Nice.
Target.
I knew that.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a Target shirt, but I haven't bought myself clothes in so long. Like I am 2+ years. I'm over 2 years postpartum and I'm still wearing like the nursing bra that I purchased.
Like, and why do we freaking do that? Like our kids look super fly. They have always like
most definitely
clean,
super cute.
Their hair is brushed. We're like making sure they look cute and we don't have anything for ourselves.
Yeah.
So good for you. I'm so happy.
So I bought myself a new shirt. I feel really beautiful in it. And it feels good.
Did look awesome in that shirt.
Thank you.
I liked it a lot.
Thanks. Yeah,
so
I'm feeling myself.
I'm feeling myself. Thanks, Nikki, for that. Thanks for listening to our episode on how to know when it's time to head to the hospital or the birth center for labor. We hope you loved it as much as we did, and we want to keep in touch, so please follow us on Facebook and Instagram and tell us what topics you'd like to hear. Please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review, and we will see you again soon. Thanks. Bye.